Please do not be alarmed by the way my sultry ground pose is making you feel right now. This is the only way that I could get me and this tank in the same shot. So this was my only option. That's why I'm on the floor, because I'm going to be talking about this beauty of a tank today. This is a 10-gallon tank, but specifically I'm going to be ending a 2-year experiment of mine with the absolute worst filter ever created. That is entirely sarcastic, but I have set this tank up with an Undergravel filter that I have been running for the last 2 years. I specifically set it up just so that I could experiment with this type of filtration. I have come into fish keeping during the sort of new age of fish keeping, the social media era of fish keeping, if you will, where the Undergravel filter has been vilified and demonized over and over again as the worst filter ever created. And I wanted to see for myself if that was the case. So today I'm going to talk about the benefits, the things that I've liked about this filter, the things that I haven't liked about this filter, and then I'm going to tear down this tank so that you can see, and I can see, because I'm curious, how it did with the filtration, or at least what it looks like underneath. So I'm going to start by talking about this tank and what it's been used for in the past and what the plans are that I have for it in my fish room, why I'm tearing it down, etc. And then I'm going to go over those benefits and downsides and then tear it apart, and we're going to talk about it. So let's check it out. Did you know that this tank has been entered in a variety of aquascaping competitions? It hasn't. It never would be. It would lose all of them. This tank was decorated by my 3-year-old who found a pile of rocks and decided to drop them in there because it's on the ground and it's accessible to her. So, aquascaping by my 3-year-old Rachel. It's beautiful. I tell her it all the time. She loves it. The rocks are pretty. But this tank has done a lot for me. It has had a variety of different dwarf cichlids. It has had so many different fish for both quarantine and grow out. And my original plan, this is the bottom of 4 10-gallon tanks, was to turn this tank into a shrimp tank. However, if you watched my most recent video, I had some fish loss in my fish room recently, and I have decided to not do the shrimp. I was going to do 4 tanks of shrimp, but I've decided to kind of focus on what I enjoy the most and what I'm good at, because I want my fish to live. And honestly, despite the fact that I have kept Caridina and Neocaridina shrimp in the past, and I have experience keeping both, I probably could, but I'm just going to stop branching out and kind of just do what I enjoy doing. So I'm scrapping the shrimp tank ideas. I love the shrimp, but I already have 2 tanks of them, so we're going to go with something different. So this is something that I have actually enjoyed. I'm going to tell you, spoiler alert, I don't have a ton of bad things to say about this filter. I feel like I'm supposed to, because everybody talks bad about them on the internet, but I have actually really liked it. The first thing I'll point out is the look of it. Sponge filters are ugly, and yes, those uptake tubes in the back are not that pretty, but they don't look as bad as a sponge filter. And honestly, if you were to compare this tank and the clarity of the water to my sponge filter tanks, this one's a lot better. So it has actually, to me, since the day I set it up, been way clearer than any sponge filter tank and way better at filtration. At least I would say mechanical and biological. Now, of course, chemical filtration, that's a downside of these, is that you don't really have a reservoir or something that you can add chemical filtration to. I think that you can get around that in a variety of ways, especially if you're using this on a big tank. You can always add a hang on the back or something else, just add additional filtration. You can also, on a big tank, add a power head onto the uptake tubes so that you can increase the power of the filtration. I have obviously only done this on the 10-gallon tank, so I'm not really familiar with how that would look on a big tank, and I haven't tested that, but so far on a 10-gallon tank, I have really enjoyed it. The only thing that was a little difficult with this tank was filtering it, but honestly, I think once I got done... Interjection from editing Jake. I meant cycling here, not filtering. It helped me to understand better what biological filtration really looks like than any other filter. And here's why, is because On a sponge filter, you could take a sponge that's been in a tank already and throw it in there, and you kind of already have a semi-cycled tank. You can do the same thing with a hang on the back or a canister filter. You can throw some kind of filter media in there and you can get it going. With this one, I was forced to really think about how you're going to populate the bacteria into this tank. And what I did was exactly what I just said. I took a sponge from another tank, I set it in the tank, that's all I did, and I let it run for a few months with very few fish, and it cycled just fine. The bacteria soaked into the gravel, and the tank was cycled, almost like any other tank. But it really helped me to see that on all of my tanks, bacteria lives in the substrates and on the surfaces. And so that's another thing that I really enjoyed, considering I started this only after I'd only been fish keeping for like a year and a half. It really helped us kind of solidify my knowledge of how filtration, especially biological filtration, works. But overall, I have enjoyed it. I did set it up with a pretty thick substrate. You can notice there's a thick substrate on there, which I don't think is necessary or even advisable, because I really don't know how much is being pulled through it. But considering how clear the water has been, I know it's working. So I'm really excited to tear this thing down and to show you what the gravel looks like, as well as what the filter looks like underneath. I'm excited to see it for myself. So let's get this thing drained and get to it. So once again, back on the floor. For those of you that don't know how an Undergravel filter works, the way it works is you pump air into these tubes, which causes a suction effect in the Undergravel filter, where the bubbles rising through the uptake tubes causes water to go through the gravel down into the plate underneath here that you'll see here in a few minutes, and then back up through those air tubes in the back. So you're basically using the gravel bed as your filtration. It's similar to a Matten filter. If you look that up, that's a sponge that you put on the side of the tube that you then put air on that side, which causes a current in the water, which pulls in debris and all sorts of things down into the sponge. And in this case, you're using the bed of gravel as your filtration. I hope that I explained that in a way that makes sense, but you can kind of see it in action here right behind me as I drain this tank. Looks like it's draining pretty quick. So the reason why I want to see this gravel is because I want to see how dirty it is and how much particulate matter has been sucked into it. I also want to see how much made its way into the plate underneath. Now, one of the other things that I'll address in the next 30 seconds while I'm waiting for this to drain is people talk about the inability to grow plants. Now, to be completely honest, I did try to grow some plants in here. I'm not sure if they didn't grow well because of my lack of a green thumb, or if they just didn't grow well because some people say that they don't grow well in this type of a filter. But I don't know. I can't really speak to that. I did try a little bit and I wasn't very successful. So maybe they aren't good for plants. That's one of the complaints against them. But they definitely grow duckweed. As you can see, you can grow all the duckweed you want to grow. So almost done. Let me finish this up and I'm going to pull this out and we'll take it apart and take a look. All right, I got the light on this tank so you can see what I'm doing, but first things first, let's take out these extra caves here, and I'm going to take out my daughter's beautiful rock work here. Pretty little rocks. And then we'll get into the gravel bed and we'll see how dirty it is. I don't know if this is going to be anything interesting to watch, but we'll see. I mean, there you go, look at that. Oh my goodness. See that nice little, all that gunk coming up there. I'm gonna start scooping this out with my hand. Yeah, actually, I mean, not that I expected that to be very clean, but I mean, it definitely shows how much was being caught through there. So even with that super thick substrate, it was definitely getting some flow. Catching all that particulate matter. Like I said, man, this thing was so clear. If you're wondering what was in here, most recently I had a blue Phantom Flecko, very small, that was in here for a while, just quarantining, growing out a little bit. Moved him out, and then I had some white cloud minnows that I had bred that are now in a 6-foot aquarium with a bunch of rainbow fish. It's the first time I had ever bred white cloud minnows. Very easy to do. So, whoa! I knew that was going to happen. All right, so as you can see, we are down to the actual plate here. It's kind of funny to see something that I set up 2 years ago. There's a little sponge. Actually, I remember when I set this up, I think I broke something. There's a sponge right here, and there's not one right here. I'm trying to remember exactly what went wrong, but I remember breaking something my first time and only time setting up one of these filters, so I made a couple of mistakes. But I think we're at a place where I can just kind of lift this and you can see what's underneath here. Pull out this little sponge here. Probably gonna, let's get rid of these. Still gonna knock my light off again, but yeah. Oh, that's right, this twists. See, it's been a while since I did this. I don't know if I'm gonna reuse this. Get that out of there. I think there's some rocks caught in there, so I'm just going to lift this whole thing up. Just as is. All right. Set that aside, put my light back up here. Look at that. Now, obviously you got the rocks that I just poured in there, but that's a lot of gunk. But you know what else I'm noticing about it is it's very fine. Like, this is not huge chunks of caked gunk that, you know, has solidified down here. I mean, this doesn't look bad. I mean, I honestly thought that I would pull this out and there would just be like tons of like hard gunk or thick soupy stuff, but this is really, you know, this is just what you would imagine to see in a dirty fish tank. So, you know what? I'm kind of happy with this. I mean, for 2 years, like this is all it accumulated in 2 years. I mean, obviously I did water changes and things like that, but I did not gravel vac. Confession time. So no gravel vacuum. This is literally just stuff that got sucked through the substrate and slowly broke down until it turned into liquid. That is probably a good time to add that I did test this tank for nitrates, and it didn't seem to be any different than any of my other tanks with sponge filters and anything else. So I did have some floating plants. That's probably what the duckweed was doing. It acted just like any other tank. And I gotta say, the best part, this plate that I put in here cost $10 for the whole thing. So super cheap. So yeah, this is what it looks like underneath. Playing in the dirty water. All right, so just to show you a little bit more of how this thing works, get some of this duckweed off of here. These are the carbon filters that came on this. This is the uptake tube with an air stone that comes out the bottom, sticking right there. So this is where the air comes in on both sides. Splash myself in the mouth. Yummy. So that's how the uptake tubes work. Well, at least they did until I just broke it. It's a good thing it was only $10. So maybe that's why it was only $10. So this one, I'll show you the plate here. If I can get this thing off. There we go, I got the other one off. So this is what I was talking about when I set this thing up. I accidentally broke it right here. So this comes with different options for your tubes. I use the one on the end. It has these little sponges that you can put here. And I accidentally popped this whole thing out. I broke it out, but you don't have to break it out because this has a little vent on it. So you can put the tube in the middle if you want, or you can put it on the ends. I had decided to put it on the ends. I just thought it would look like it was more out of the way. You also don't have to use all of them, but obviously I felt like using at least 2 of them was a good idea, because then if I used it only on one side, then I would get poor filtration on the other side. So I decided to put it on the ends, but I guess you could have put it more in the middle. I'm not an expert on how to optimize that. Like I said, first time with this, but it seemed to work just fine putting it on the end. So this is really it. This is the whole plate. This was sitting down underneath that gravel bed for a while. You can theoretically use sand with this, although it will go through this pores. You can put a layer of something, put some kind of a mesh there that'll hold the sand out of there. I thought it would work better with gravel just to help with that water flow. And I think I was right based off of what I found underneath here. So overall, I don't know if I'm going to switch out all my sponge filters for these, mostly just because I've already got my sponge filters. So I don't really want to do that. Plus it would take a little bit of work. And there is a little bit more versatility. The sponge filters, you can kind of, you can move them from tank to tank. This is a little bit more difficult. But you don't have to tear them down. I mean, they're really nice. So if I was going to set up a tank for long term that was a small tank, I'd probably use this again. I'm going to have to buy another one since I just broke this one, but I could use it again. But overall, I thought it was a pretty decent filter, and it did not have the problems that people talked about. And there are ways to use it on a bigger tank. And if you have used it on a bigger tank, then I would invite you to share your experience in the comment section below, because I would like to hear about it, but I know I've seen it. My Uncle John uses them on large tanks and puts a power head on it to just kind of help increase that flow through the gravel. And he seems to do just fine with it. And his tanks are probably clearer and nicer than mine. So I know it's possible, and I know you can use it. I don't think it deserves all of the bad reputation that it gets if it works for you. If it doesn't, it's worth experimenting. So try it out. Don't just be a canister filter junkie and only use one kind of filter. It's worth experimenting with different kinds. And I've enjoyed my experiment with this one, and I think I'll probably use it in the future if I ever find a reason for it. But thanks a lot for watching. I hope this was enjoyable and entertaining and educational. And I will see you in the next one. Push List out.